Now I want to talk about 5 common myths of fasting that a lot of people have. And I want to start off with number 1, fasting puts you in starvation mode. This is not true. Now, there's a difference between voluntary fasting, like I talked about, and then true starvation. When we're talking about this starvation mode, this is talking about your metabolism. It might cause your metabolism to just shut off, but that doesn't actually happen. In fact, there's science that shows that your BMR, your basal metabolic rate, actually doesn't change all that much. There was one study where participants fasted every other day, so this is alternate day fasting, for 22 days. This is a little over 3 weeks, and there was no difference in their basal metabolic rate, which is the amount of energy that our body burns to function optimally. Now, on average, in this study, their fat burning increased by 58%, and their carbohydrate oxidation, which is their sugar burning capacity, this decreased by 53%. This means they were becoming more metabolically flexible and learning how to use both sources of fuel properly, because that's what we're ultimately trying to do. You want to be able to miss a meal and not have to rely on sugar as fuel, because if you can miss lunch or miss dinner and feel good, that's what we're ultimately trying to get at, is learning how to use our own body fat as fuel, learn how to use the fat that we're eating for fuel, and how to use sugar for fuel. And engaging in regular periods of fasting that's going to stress us out a little bit, that's going to help us to be able to use carbs for fuel and fat for fuel. Now, the second common myth about fasting is that fasting causes you to burn muscle. This is also not true. Did you ever wonder why we have body fat to begin with? Why did nature, God, whatever you prescribe to, why did we get designed to have body fat in times of food abundance? It's because of this reason, so that way we have excess energy to burn when there's food scarcity. The problem is, in our environment today, food scarcity never comes. Winter's never coming for us because there's always food available. So we need to give our bodies periods of famine because we have so much feast going on. Just a little bit. I'm not talking about doing a crazy fast, just a couple hours or a couple days here and there. Our bodies are so intelligent that it actually, when it burns through our stored glycogen, because we have stored glucose in our liver and we have stored glucose in our muscles. This is sugar. And when we burn through that, we start burning our own body fat. It takes about a day, 24 hours to burn through all that stored glycogen. But as soon as we are able to burn through that, then and only then can we burn our stored body fat as fuel. The problem is most people are eating every few hours and probably not the best foods, and then they're never able to access their stored body fat. So if you can engage in maybe just a 16-hour intermittent fast, finish eating at 6 o'clock at night, and then not again until 10 o'clock the next morning, that is an incredible way and a really cheat code to boost your body's fat burning ability. Burning muscle can really be seen as a last resort. So unless you're somebody out there with severely low body weight and severely low body fat, you don't have to worry about losing muscle. Now, you might lose the gains a little bit because a lot of that water retention is coming out. You're probably peeing a lot of water retention out, but you're not losing muscle mass. You're just kind of losing that water weight that's in there. And when we're talking about losing muscle mass during fasting, it's actually kind of the opposite, because fasting, engaging in a regular fasting protocol, is one of the main things that helps to boost our growth hormone levels. There was a recent study in 47 people that found that HGH, human growth hormone levels, increased 5-fold during a 24-hour fast. Think about that. You fast, you're not eating, but you were recovering. You're going anabolic, you're building yourself back up. You were boosting your growth hormone, all naturally, just by something that's free. You don't have to pay for it. You just don't eat. There was another study where participants did alternate day fasting for 70 days, over 3 months, and what the researchers found is that their weight reduced by 6%, but fat mass decreased by 11%, and muscle mass didn't change at all. So when they did alternate day fasting every other day for 70 days, they just lost body fat and not muscle mass. So you don't have to worry about losing muscle if you want to try a fasting protocol. Now, a third common myth about fasting is that fasting is going to cause low blood sugar. This isn't true for the overwhelming vast majority of people, because our blood sugar needs to be tightly regulated at all times. And kind of just like I was talking about, we have stored glycogen for a reason. So if we're not bringing in food, your body has all these built-in reserves to access to keep your blood sugar steady at all times. And so once your body goes through that stored glycogen, your stored liver glycogen, your stored muscle glycogen, then your body's going to turn to a process called gluconeogenesis. Gluco meaning sugar, neogenesis is creation. So you're literally creating glucose. And where do you think this comes from? This is coming from the backbone of body fat. So this is what's happening. You're burning that stored glycogen and you're burning your own body fat, which is actually in a way getting turned into sugar, which is then able to keep your blood sugar steady. Now, if you're somebody out there that can't miss a meal, you feel hungry if you miss a meal, hangry, Betty White hangry, if you're that Snickers commercial, if you're feeling rough because you can't miss that meal, this is a sign that you are not metabolically healthy or metabolically flexible. You should be able to miss a meal and not want to tear your neighbor's head off because you didn't get your food. So if you're somebody out there that is struggling like this and you started fasting protocol and you miss a meal and you feel blurry or hangry, it might take a little time for your body to kind of regulate itself. So don't give up just yet, keep going with it. I was like that when I first started fasting, but as soon as your body starts making ketones and you learn how to adequately use your own body fat as fuel, then you'll feel clear-headed, you'll have energy, you'll be able to miss a meal, and you'll feel really good. Now, the fourth common myth about fasting is that it causes you to overeat. Now, listen, I've done many fasts in my life. I've been doing it for over a decade now, and I routinely do intermittent fasting, and never once have I overeaten the next meal because I just underate or I didn't eat. After this fast is over for me, I'm doing a 3 to 4 day fast. I know me, I've done this before. I'm not going to eat a ton of food. I'm probably only going to eat maybe half the amount that I normally would naturally, just because my body's hormones are kind of getting readjusted. It's just naturally what happens. You don't make up for all the calories that you didn't eat, if that makes sense. Now, there is a caveat with this. If you go back, break your fast, and you start eating ultra processed foods like Oreos, pizza, chips, cookies, ice cream, you're going out and eating all of these junk food, all these ultra processed foods that are designed to be overeaten, then yes, you're probably gonna overeat, because companies and scientists out there are literally in a lab creating these foods with a perfect combination of carbs, fats, salt, and sugar that cause you to overeat these foods. I mean, it's so hard to eat a baked potato, but if you add butter to that baked potato, it's probably a lot easier to eat, combining the fat and the carbs together. But if you're just eating a high protein meal, nutrient dense foods that have a lot of vitamins and minerals in it, whole food based diet, you're not going to overeat. So that's just a common myth. Now, the last common myth about fasting is that fasting is gonna cause your body to become nutrient deficient. If you're doing just alternate day fasting and then you're replenishing your body with a nutrient dense meal, or you're doing a 3 or 4 day fast like me and then you start eating nutrient dense foods again, you don't have anything to worry about. This is not gonna deprive your body of micronutrients. Maybe in the short term, like I mentioned, you need this kind of repair process to have that anabolic processes build you back up and get stronger. So you don't have to worry about becoming chronically nutrient deficient. There's more people out there that are eating a ton of ultra processed foods that are nutrient deficient than people that are eating a whole food based diet and engaging in regular fasting protocols, because ultra processed foods contain very little to no vitamins or minerals. So if you're just alternate day fasting or intermittent fasting or doing fast like I'm doing, a 3 to 4 day fast once or twice out of the year, you have nothing to worry about as long as you're eating whole foods regularly throughout the rest of the year.